Afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us today. My name is Alex Bavin and I manage the Select Lincolnshire Food and Drink membership at the Chamber of Commerce. Just want to give you a little bit of background to Select. We're a not-for-profit membership organisation, passionate about providing its members with the help, support and the guidance they need. We aim to support businesses with their growth, helping them to develop existing markets and supporting access to new markets, whilst raising the unique profile of Lincolnshire produce locally, nationally and internationally. Through the membership platform, we want to facilitate greater connectivity amongst producers locally and with businesses across the wider food and drink network. Absolutely delighted to welcome our panel of speakers today, even though we're two down at the moment, but they are going to be joining us. Jay Norbury of Sally Social Digital. Jay will give us an overview of how social media can benefit your business, touching on how you can integrate it, build your audience, optimize your accounts for attracting and keeping followers and ultimately increasing sales. Karen Green, who is here, is Director of Food Mentor and will be sharing with us her approach and no doubt top tips for getting ready for that 10-minute pitch with the buyer. And Adrian Boswell, food buyer at Selfridges, who will give us his insight into what buyers actually want and their criteria for selection. He's also going to share with us details about Project Earth, which is Selfridges' plan to radically change the way we shop and put sustainability at the very heart. Firstly, just a little bit of housekeeping. Can I ask that you keep your microphones on mute? There will be an opportunity to ask questions and please feel free to use the chat facility throughout. The webinar will be recorded and we'll send you that and the slides after the event. So with no further ado, I'll hand you over to Karen to get us started.
I'm Karen Green, as Alex kindly introduced me. Thank you for inviting me to come along today. I work with food businesses from pre-concept right through to multi-million pound businesses, helping basically achieve profitable sales growth, and obviously from the start making sure people have got the business in a good shape to kick off with, and then taking people through various stages to get them increasing their sales profitably over the years, whether that's selling to smaller retailers and bigger retailers. So today what I'm going to do is, I'll just bring up the screen, is talk about the 10-minute pitch. And if I can multitask, which I'm not sure I can actually, hang on. I was just going to pop it in the chat. You can, there is a mini free mini ebook, it's really hard to say, that goes with this, and you're very welcome to download that, and I've just put that link in to the chat now. So if we get started, I know you're all at very different stages, and some of you have probably just come to learn about the marketing, but the 10-minute pitch is what seems to be happening in a lot of businesses, where retailers are coming in through bread and jam. Should everyone silence? I think there's someone. There we go. So yes, there's, for those of you who are not aware of these, give me a shout and I can share links to them. But things like Bread and Jam, Product Guru, and even some of the retailers, Sainsbury's Future Brands at the moment are doing 10 to 15-minute pitches as well. So I thought it would be really useful to give you some ideas on what to do to make a 10-minute pitch, because when I started pitching, and my background, just for your information, I used to be a buyer for Tesco's and Boots, and we used to give people an hour to talk. And then I went into the food industry on the other side as a commercial director and did a number of different pitches. And as I say, they tended to be an hour, so you could really get into a lot of detail, whereas now it's bang, 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 and that's what we're going to kind of focus on. So in my book, my little ebook, I've said the 5 Ps of the ultimate pitch, and I'm actually putting in a 6th one, which is pre-work, because I believe from the day your food business is born, you should be thinking about where you want to take it to and pre-selling your products from a trade point of view. And that's where the pre-work comes from. And I'm going to talk about that in a second. And then the other 5 Ps are preparation, presentation, practice, makes perfect, of course, the actual pitch, and then perseverance. So, I love these letters, the P's. So first thing to say when we're talking about pre-work, and this is an interesting fact that's come from the movie industry, actually, back in the 80s. They did a piece of research to work out how many times someone has to see your message before they'll actually take action. And this was about go and see the movie. And the research came out with 7. And I think nowadays when you talk to people, they say 10 times or 11 times or 15 times, but we're going to work on the rule of 7 because it's a manageable number. So I've called it the secret sauce of getting a retailer listing. And as I said, I've actually created this mini course, which I'll give you the details at the end, for actually thinking about your trade marketing plan. So before you do a pitch, it's so much better if the buyer knows who you are. So if you can start to raise your profile, and I know that Jay is going to talk to you about raising it with the consumer, but of course the buyer is a human, so they're a consumer as well. But these are the 7 things that I go through in the course, which I think are really key to think about. So the first one is LinkedIn, and if you haven't already, and I know we've been linking in with you this morning just as part of the process, and some of you have agreed, thank you. But LinkedIn is a great way of raising profile, and we're doing a campaign at the moment. And if you have LinkedIn with me, go and have a look. We've got a client of mine and Jay's, actually, Dee Mapshaw. She's going on to Dragon's Den tomorrow, and we're doing a campaign targeting those buyers that we haven't managed to get hold of yet. And I'm writing out different things every day. So LinkedIn, really critical for raising profile before you could do anything about pitching to anyone. And it doesn't have to be retailers as well. I think there's one hotel guy here. This can apply to anything, raising the profile of if you are selling to trade, business to business. And then as we go around, the second icon is exhibitions. Exhibitions have been a nightmare, and obviously we're doing a virtual thing today. Normally we would do a face-to-face. There are a lot of food expos coming up, so speciality, lunch are the 2 which look like they will go ahead. Is it a good return on investment? I don't know. I'm not going to get into it. I don't have time. But expo is really interesting. Press, we don't do enough on press. I think we're all obsessed with social media, and PR is great. Real opportunity for raising profile of your business. And again, remember, buyer is a human being, not just a trade buyer. So if they see you in the consumer press, that's just as good. Awards. I've just been shortlisted for the GBEA Entrepreneur of the Year for Service, which I'm quite proud of. I get shortlisted for quite a few awards, never been a winner yet, so let's fingers crossed for that one. But I was never a great fan of awards till about 2 years ago, and then I've seen the real power of the publicity that it generates. So really think about what awards can you enter that aren't going to cost you lots of money but can be really good publicity. Social media, talked about. Hashtags is a really interesting one. Planet Organic and Whole Foods were doing a presentation at Bread and Jam, actually, and they said they actually go out and look for specific hashtags. So I mean, in the course I go through this, but what hashtags are relevant for your business if a buyer was looking for you, and whatever, ditto. And then the 2 people icon is about referrals. Most of my business comes from referral or meeting you like this, and then we go on ultimately maybe to do business together. But referrals are really key. So for example, LinkedIn, if you link in with me, I've got over 5,000 connections. Hopefully I'm connected by the first or second connection with the buyer. If I'm not, I'll know someone who is. I could get you introduced that way. Suddenly that's a warm buyer, not a cold buyer. So those are all the pre-work, which I think is really critical. And I'll give you the link to the course at the end. But Once you get into saying, right, I'm going to do a pitch, a 10-minute pitch, the first thing to think is it's not 10 minutes. And I've just been coaching someone this morning on this. You know, you have 10 minutes start to finish. And if you're in one of these really strict ones, they will cut you off. And I've had a couple of clients who I coached last year to do this in October, and they went, and I got cut off. And I went, yes, but we were going to. Anyway, it's easy to do. So the first minute is about an introduction. So that's going to be, hi, I'm such and such, and the other person is going to introduce, and pleasantries. And you kind of think, oh, but that's a minute gone already. Clock's ticking, which is why we've got the lovely sand going through. If you're allowed to do a presentation, and Product Guru, if you've come across it, they don't allow slides, but you need to talk for about 4 minutes. And we're going to go on and think about what are you going to say in those 4 minutes in a minute, so don't worry about that. And then you need to allow 2 to 3 minutes for questions so that you can get some interaction. And the art and the challenge is if someone asks you a question in minute 3 and you never actually get to the point you want to get to. So controlling it is really, really tough. And then in the last minute, and it depends on the type of presentation that you're doing, but you need to have the next step. Whether you say, would you like some samples? Shall we arrange a meeting? Shall I send you costings, details of our marketing plan, yabba dabba? Or in the case of some, and Bread and Jam was one last year, they don't tell you their name.
Hi.
What else do you do? Let's get ready. So the preparation is the first thing. So whoever you're presenting to, and as I say, whoever it is within business to business, read everything about that you can about the customer. Find out what their strategy is. Go onto their website. Look at their Insta. I've just been talking to somebody about a business called John Bell and Croydon, which is a pharmacy in London. And they're asking £5,000 marketing fund, and part of it is you be part of their Insta gig. We've just been on their site. They only have 3,000 followers, which I don't think is a very good return on my 5K. Anyway, read everything you can, get the strategy, understand exactly what they're looking for. If it's a retailer, go and look at the shops. If it's a website like Ocado, get on the website and have a look, work out what they're doing, get the strategy. Find out a bit more about them. Tesco's and Ocado definitely have their own definitions of customers, for example. So start to work out what the language is. And if you need any information, certainly on those, do get in touch, because I've got that. And then you start to say, what gap am I filling? What transformation am I making for these guys? How am I adding value? So what are you bringing to the party? You know, are you going to bring new footfall? Have you got masses of followers? Have you got something that no one else has got? What is it that you're going to actually bring to them? Those are the key messages that they want to hear. How are you going to make them more money? I mean, we beat about the bush, but at the end of the day, you're here to make money. They're here to make money. And then the bonus one for preparation is see if you can profile the buyer. And in the little wee book, I've got how you can do that. And you can actually work out what the personality of the buyer is and tailor your presentation to that buyer. But that's a little bit more advanced. But if you know who the buyer is, then you can find out more information about them and start to build a relationship. So what do you do in your 4 to 5 minutes? And I'm a big fan of Dilbert, and so you've got Dilbert down in there saying, you know, I've got 75 slides to discuss in 10 minutes, and you'd be amazed. I mean, I've just gone through one. She's presenting to Sainsbury's. She's still at 15 slides. She is not going to get through those 15 slides. So we've tried to cut, but it's going to be a challenge. But basically, very simply, what's the growth opportunity? What is their gap? So don't start with your story. I started in 1945 and dabba, 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 dabba. Get to the point. You haven't got time. So you've got to get to the point. What's the growth? What's the gap and opportunity in their business? And then you go, why me? What is it about your product that's got the USP? And remember, it's not just the product, it's the brand as well. The mistake a lot of people make is they get very into the product and don't necessarily get into the brand. And think about what's the size of the opportunity. I wouldn't purport to go into Sainsbury's and say, we can, and I was discussing this with someone else a couple of days ago, and saying, I can make you £1 million, because I think they might think you're arrogant and not really on this planet. But certainly think about what's the size of the opportunity and your plans for the future. So if you got the listing, what would you do? How would you work with this business to make sure it happens? Practice, 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 practice. The best pitch I've seen recently was actually an investor pitch, which was a client of mine, and she had literally practiced it to death and she completely nailed it, bang on time, every point across. So go and practice it in the mirror. If you can practice it with friends or a mentor, I do a power hour with people and I go through it in some detail. If you want to do that, give me a shout. But yes, practice so that you are perfect. However, and I'm sure Adrian will talk about this later, just if somebody starts talking to you and asks you some interesting questions and you're not flexible enough, you may well be like, oh, I've got to do my presentation. So practice maybe 2 different ways of doing it, a perfect 3 or 4 minute presentation and maybe something that's a little bit more fluid. And then the pitch, what are you going to do? Have a beautiful backdrop. Have the branding in, and that could be, you know, it could be a Zoom backdrop, it could be a banner that you've had at a marketplace, it could be a display of product. Make it interesting. Have product to show. I've found this really strange, but a lot of buyers say, well, we never actually saw the product in it. Make sure your slides work, which we've talked about before. Have a way of keeping time. So, you know, ideally a stopwatch, because if it's anything like my phone, it keeps switches off and I can't actually see what the time is. But make sure that you don't run out of time, because if you're doing a timed pitch and it's a hard cut, then you'll be mid-flow and you won't have got to the point. Remember what the objective of your meeting is. You are unlikely to sell and get a listing in that first meeting. So the point is to create interest, and it might be to get another meeting, it might be to get samples over to them. So keep that in mind, because that's what you want to do at the end of it. Don't be afraid to ask questions. It's absolutely fine. Nobody can know everything about everybody you're dealing with. So even me, who's working with loads of different clients and loads of different buyers, I don't know all the answers, and we just go and answer. We ask a question and find out, and then try and relax. It's hard sometimes, especially if it's somebody you really, really want to sell to, but you know, don't be afraid. It's only a game. And if you haven't got the buyer's name and address, get it. And it's so basic. And last autumn when we were doing bread and jam, I think we probably had 2 or 3 people who came back to me and went, I never got their name and address. And it does make it really hard. Although LinkedIn obviously is your friend. And then what do you do afterwards? And I can only say persevere. I'm working with a client at the moment, and it's taking time. I mean, if we take the example of Dee, who I mentioned, Kayswell Sausages, we first met Costco in 2018, and I was going back and looking at it today, and we finally got them to talk to us and start the conversation January this year. So that's 2.5 years. But basically what Dee did and what we've been doing is following up, using all those elements of the secret sauce that I talked about to keep plodding away, raising the profile from a trade point of view. So doing PR, Dee entered the Great Taste Awards, the Best Sausage Award, my goodness, you know, and as I mentioned, she's on Dragon's Den tonight. So we're going to, again, raise that profile with the buyers that haven't engaged, but posting regularly, writing to the buyer once a month, once every 2 months when you've got something, ask for an update, but don't become a stalker. And I'm sure Adrian's going to tell you how many emails he gets a week, but it's a huge number. So, and he's really good at replying actually, but a lot of buyers aren't. So, you know, don't be a stalker. Keep going, because the other thing is, you know, it might be the wrong time for the buyer. They might not be reviewing that section. You might get a new buyer. So the old buyer might have gone, no, not interested. And the new buyer goes, oh yes, I'm going to do a review. Your product might not have established itself yet. So it might be worth going back after 6 months. just keep going, because the experience I've had over, I mean, I've been doing this for 4.5 years now, but I'm seeing people who have kind of gone, oh, I'm never going to get that listing, and it's coming through. So don't lose heart. As I say, little plug for the course. It's only it's £47, but there is a £10 discount there. Get in touch with me if you want to book a discovery call. I'm quite happy to do free half-an-hour chat about anything. Please reply to my LinkedIn. If we found you, you will have an invite, because I do practice what I preach most of the time. Or drop me an email. I'm here, whatever you need, which gives us a few minutes, I think, for questions. 5 minutes. Does anybody have anything they'd like to ask?
I'll ask a question, Karen. It's just in terms of what the buyers, is there do they provide you with a set list of what you need to put in your presentation, or is that what you decide yourself as the key things that you should be presenting?
It depends. I mean, funnily enough, I've just done a power hour with someone who's presenting to Sainsbury's later this week, and the Taste the Future team have sent her a list of questions that they are interested in. So it is the usual stuff. So, where's the gap in the marketplace? What are you bringing to the party in terms of filling that gap? What are you doing in terms of marketing? What kind of engagement have you got? How much social media following have you got? What's your plans? Have you got funding? How are you going to engage with, and we'll use Sainsbury's as an example, with Sainsbury's? How are you going to make sure that once it hits the shelf, it's actually going to fly off the shelf? So they're the sorts of things that really they're looking for. But no, in general, they're not that prescriptive. It's more a question of, and some just want to see the product and learn about the product, and don't want to mess about with all the other stuff. Let's show me the product. The thing is, a lot of these buyers know so much more about the market with respect than we do. I wouldn't go and present to a Tesco buyer any market data, because they're going to have it all laid out, and they'll have paid thousands of pounds to have IRI or Kantar or Nielsen, and they've got their own dunnhumby. They know their marketplace. So especially, this audience, it's about challenger brands. It's bringing something to the party that's a bit different, and that's what they're looking for.
And post that pitch, what does that usually look like? Whether you get called back, do you, they come and visit you, and what does that usually look like?
It's very seldom a visit.
Did think that.
If you're lucky, you can get a follow-up meeting. We've just tried to set up a face-to-face with Sainsbury's, and they've said no, they're not doing face-to-face. This was something completely different. This is a much bigger client who's got quite a few products already listed, and they've said no, we want to do a one-to-one, but they have given us an hour, so it's going to be quite an in-depth conversation. So ideally you get a follow-up meeting, or you might get a follow-up email saying, we're interested in X, Y, and Z, we'd like to have a chat with you. And then personally, I prefer and I advise that people try and do negotiations for the deal face-to-face or on the phone, because it's a lot easier to negotiate that way. But often they'll be asking you for cost prices, and that's something at some point you're going to have to put out your first attempt, as it were. But my advice is never to put a commercial price in your presentation, because it can be so dependent on other factors. So for example, what kind of marketing spend are they looking for? What kind of distribution is it? I've had my fingers burnt several times where I've negotiated a deal, certainly in my previous corporate life, and then they've come back and gone, yeah, it's not going to one depot, it needs to go to 11 plus Northern Ireland, which is this is obviously pre-Brexit, which was particularly expensive. So that's the potential. So email, Zoom call like this, phone call, maybe going into the head office. A visit, that buyer's going to have to dedicate a day. You're going to be a pretty serious big contender for them to come and have a visit.
Okay, brilliant. That's really helpful. I don't know if anyone's got any questions. I think not at the moment. Maybe they're holding them all.
Yeah, there's Jodie in the chat.
Oh, there's one.
Jodie in the chat, yeah.
Yeah, how do you find the right person to contact at the company, or are you contacted a general info@email?
Ideally, you want to find the right human, and it's relatively easy. My one top tip would be use Google, not LinkedIn, as a search engine, because Google will find them a lot better than LinkedIn does, even though you're going back to LinkedIn as a result. So that's the first thing I would Google. So again, we'll use Dee as an example. She makes boerewors, which are South African sausages. Who's the sausage buyer? So I put in sausage buyer Morrison's, and fortunately Shane, who is the sausage buyer, comes up. So that's how I would find it. A lot of people are now having a kind of supplier page. And so, for example, Ocado, booths are really good, actually. Booths have a page, and you go on it and you fill it in. It's not complicated, but they will come back, and they're very good at replying, and they either say no or they'll say yes, and they book you in a 15-minute meeting, which is really nice. A general info app doesn't tend to work because it just goes, you might be lucky and it goes into, but normally it goes into a bit of a black hole, I think, and you never see it again. I'm just trying to think of anything else of finding the right person. That's generally it. And as I say, there's all these different events that we do, like Enterprise Nation does a pitching event. Virgin, Bread and Jam I keep mentioning because that's quite major, and that does look like it's going to go ahead in October, so they'll do a great one. Product Guru, you have to pay a reasonable amount of money, but that can work quite well. So that's another way to track down the right person, because occasionally it's really, really hard. And then also use your network, and try Food Hub if you haven't, or if you're not already on Facebook. Food Hub forum, that's quite good. People are not very willing to share who their contacts, though, I've found on there. I've seen it a couple of times. So, but again, ask, get in touch. Ask me. I might know.
Oh, well, thank you so much. That was brilliant, Karen. Lots for thought, and I know probably a lot of following up to do as well. Before further ado, I'll hand over to Jay, and she can start her presentation.
So I'm going to talk about social media. Love it or hate it, it's here to stay, and quite an important part of your business. So I want to give you some practical tools and some tips that will help you build your social proof, because as Karen quite rightly said earlier on, if you can demonstrate to your buyer, obviously if you're going into retail, that you've got an engaged following out there who love and adore your product or service, then that's going to stand you much better chance of success when you're entering into that negotiation with them. But not only that, if you decide that you want to go B2C, so direct to the consumer, you'll need to build a social presence in order to reach those consumers. So I'm going to talk about how you can do that, both from sort of an organic point of view and a paid perspective. So this is a huge subject, and to try and condense everything down into 20 minutes is a real challenge. So I just wanted to ask you if you can put just drop into the chat where you are in terms of your social media. That would really help me. I can answer some of the questions as we go through. So, do you feel overwhelmed by it, even though you know that you need it within your business? You know that you need it, but you're not quite sure where to start with it. Perhaps you've tried using paid ads, but you feel a little bit stressed and frustrated because it's not working and it feels like it's expensive. Maybe you are having some success with social and you want to learn how you can then convert those followers into sales. Or you might need some direction in terms of what type of content to create in order to keep your audience engaged, or it might be something else. So please feel free to pop into the chat where you are. So do you have these questions? Do I need social media for my business? how will it benefit my business? How should I best integrate it into my business? And how do I make it easy to do? And I think that's a big, the sort of the golden challenge that people want is like, how do I make this really easy? Because I'm spinning so many plates within my business, particularly if it's a product-based business. So before I go into the nuts and bolts of all that, just a bit of my background. So my name's Jay, I run a social media ads and email marketing agency called Sally Social Digital Limited. I now live in Southwest France, like Karen, who also lives in France. My background is actually FMCG. So I started my career at Safeway. I don't know who remembers Safeway, as an assistant buyer, then worked my way up to buyer. And then I went over to Sainsbury's, was a buyer for them for about 15, 20 years, buying across different categories. And then I was responsible for the in-store marketing events. So things like the Euros right now, that would be me and my team making sure that all the merchandise in store was in store at the right time. So we talked to the big guys, the big guns like Cadbury's and Walkers, to make sure that all our in-store activity aligned with their big marketing plan. So that was a really fun job. And then I moved into a regional category planner, where I was actually out on the ground talking to businesses like yourselves. This is pre-Future Brands team. So be out with the buyers, sourcing new innovation out actually in the different counties across the British Isles. So that was a really fun thing to do. And we would actually host some like Dragon's Den type scenarios. So I completely understand, what it's like to start out, at the grassroots level. So cut a long story short then, I moved to France in 2012, and that's where I live now and run my business. When I went to France, I launched an Etsy business and a home interior store. And that's kind of where I sort of went to kind of discover social media, because I needed to reach new customers, because where we lived was quite isolated. So we just didn't have the footfall coming through the door. So I needed to find a way to reach new customers. So I had to put my business online. And that's where I fell in love with social media. And I've come full circle, bumped into Karen. She said, we need you back in the food industry. And so that's kind of, I work with e-commerce brands, food and lifestyle. I do work with some other companies as well, mainly helping them develop their social media marketing strategies. So that's where you can find me. I think you get a copy of this presentation. So do I need social media? Yeah, love it or hate it. A lot of businesses would say probably quite it's at the bottom of my to-do list. I'm here to try and raise it to the top of your to-do list, because effectively now it's another marketing function within your business. So I try to say, would you not have an accountant in your business? No, you wouldn't. Yeah. So it's just as important as that, because without customers, you don't have a business. So try and view social media as a core function within your marketing department. It's just evolved. It's different to how it used to be. In fact, it's better than it used to be, because you can reach somebody in their through their mobile phone, whereas you had to rely on, in the good old days, through direct marketing or a placement in a magazine or on the radio. So social media is such a great way to reach new customers now. And it also keeps you connected to existing customers. And what we're finding with my client base now, it tends to work the other way around. They don't follow on social and then buy from you. We're reaching cold audiences. And it's interesting, Karen mentioned the 7 times analogy earlier on. The fact that a potential prospect needs to see your brand at least 7 times in order to take action and make a buying decision. What we're finding now, particularly with Facebook and Instagram ads, is there will be a small percentage of buyers who are quite happy to purchase from you, providing that you do have some element of social proof. Your website works well, they can navigate through the site. There's some testimonials on your site, which are really important. So gather as many customer testimonials as you can and have them on your site. We are actually seeing that people will make that purchase without having been touched by your brand multiple times. And then they'll become followers. So they might buy from you and then become a follower. And we see that a lot of the growth is coming from existing customers. Sorry, a lot of the follower growth is coming from existing customers. Your channel, so your Facebook page, your Instagram, if you have TikTok, is the go-to resource for help, facts, tips, articles, anything that you can share that will help people understand your brand more. And you know, you might be surprised that when we're running ads, we get so many questions come through on those ads themselves, like, you know, what's the sugar content, or is this available in a shop, or there's a lot of gluten and dairy free dietary restrictions now, so you know, what kind of ingredients are in your product. Environmental credentials are really important as well. So if you've got those, people actually use those to make decisions. So again, it's a place for you to communicate all that really good stuff. And it's not just a place to promote the hell out of your product, which is something that I see quite a lot. You know, 70% of your content, and we'll talk about this a little bit more in a moment, 70% of your content should be non-promotional and 30% promotional. So how will it benefit my business? Well, it will provide you with social proof. So when you're going out there with an ad, or you're going out there to a retailer, you can demonstrate that there is that you've got a tribe of people, and it doesn't have to be thousands. It can be a small quality, a small number, but high quality tribe. When I say high quality, you've got good engagement. So yeah, it demonstrates that you've got there is a desire for your product, okay, and that's the crucial thing. I've also said it provides a window into your business for your customers and your fans. So really important to share that company and product news. You'll be surprised at who looks at your Facebook page and your Instagram accounts. Provides transparency again, like I said, you know, highlighting those environmental credentials, which go into making a buying decision, and helps build trust between you and those potential consumers. Now, paid social will help you reach more people quickly. Just to explain this, you've got your organic social, so that's when you're sat on your phone, posting out on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter, and that doesn't cost you anything. What's happened over the last couple of years, it's good old Zuckerberg has realized that where the masses gather, it's a great advertising opportunity, and therefore a great revenue stream for him and his business. So he has therefore restricted our reach when we post out on social. If you've got 100 followers, only 2%, or if you've got whatever your followers are, only 2 or 3% of your followers will see your content. So if you've got 100 followers, only 2 people will see what you're posting. Big deal, right? So the way around that is we have to pay to play. That's one of the things that I focus a lot of our activity on, is how we can do that in a way that is affordable for our clients. Having said that, it's really important. Sorry, my dog's scratching in the background there. Having said that, it's really important to maintain a regular posting schedule on your Instagram and your Facebook. The reason for that is when you go out into the auctions, and if you're serious about building your business, you will at some point be using paid ads, okay? Whether that's on Google, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, we're now looking at as well. It's really important for 2 reasons, to be posting at least 3 times a week on your social media. The reason for that is when you go out to the auctions, Facebook will give you a quality score. They track everything that we do on our mobile phones. They track everything that we do on our social media. They know which websites we visit. They know how active we are on our social. Therefore, they give the account, you, the business, a quality score. And if you're not seen by Facebook as being an engaging company to deal with, so you're not posting out on your social media, you're going to get downgraded in the auctions. And that means that you won't win media space that you're bidding for. I'm not going to go into that because that's a big subject. But it's really important to post at least 3 times a week on your social, okay? We'll talk about how you can do that in a moment. So yeah, paid social will help you reach more people more quickly. It will drive traffic to your website. It will help increase your brand awareness. It will also help you build your email list. So email marketing is not dead. In fact, we've one of the honey producers that I work with, we sent out an email last Saturday, generated £2,000 worth of business from that one email. Okay, it's not a huge brand, but that's a big deal for them. So building your email list is so important to do, and obviously it will grow sales as well. So we've talked about it already, but certainly, yeah, it will help you build your network and build collaboration. So one of the things that you might find yourself considering, if not already, is teaming up with a brand who's got a larger following than yourself and collaborating together to give a bundle of products away on social media, which will help you grow your following as well. And that's another thing that we help businesses do. So really important to have, take social media seriously within your business. So how should I best integrate it into my business? Well, first of all, you need to decide which are your social channels. And please don't use the ones that you are more familiar with or the ones that you prefer and like. Go where your audience hang out, okay? The majority of your followers, unless they're under the age of 25, will be on Facebook, okay? We have customers reach out to us on Facebook who are in their 80s because they are scrolling through their feed, checking up on their grandkids, and up pops one of our ads. And we get customers that way. It's incredible, it's so powerful. So I would certainly recommend Facebook. Instagram, if you're a lifestyle or food producer, Instagram is very popular these days. It's chomping on the heels of Facebook in terms of the number of users on it. So I would certainly have a look at Instagram, and you don't have to have beautiful feeds for you to be a success on Instagram. In fact, the majority of our accounts, we tend not to look after the organic social anymore. We tend to focus just on the paid side of things, but the majority of our clients don't spend thousands on having beautiful feeds curated. And what I would suggest is twice a year you go and get some seasonal photography done. Doesn't have to cost a lot. You'll probably end up paying £10 per photograph. Get some seasonal photography done of your products, and then you can use them in your social media across that 3-month, 6-month period. Remember, you're only posting 3 times a week. Decide your content strategy. So let's talk about content. Oh, sorry, just go back. Yeah, don't dismiss TikTok. I should say TikTok there. TikTok is an interesting platform. So it used to be people doing silly dances and all sorts of strange antics on there, but running some product demos on TikTok can help you reach so many more thousands of people. Again, I'm going to use my honey brand. He does a lot of activity on TikTok, and I think he's got now almost 40,000 followers on there just by doing some live video, which brings us on nicely to deciding your content strategy. So one of the questions I get asked an awful lot is, I don't know what to post on social, and it becomes this great big elephant in the room. I can't deal with it. I can't deal with social media because I don't know what to post. 3 times a week, okay. Let's just talk about formats first of all. Video is king when it comes to organic social, and Reels is another form of video on Instagram, stories as well. if you can use video, and it doesn't have to be you in front of the camera, it can be your product, it can be your shop, it can be the service that you provide, it could even be you writing something on a board and filming it. If you can create a video between 7 and 10 seconds long, you'll get more reach. The reason for that is Facebook. I'll talk about Facebook when I talk about Facebook. I'm talking about all the social media giants, really. But their main objective is to keep people on their platform for as long as possible, because it helps them sell advertising space. Yeah, makes sense. So if you're an advertiser or you're an account that encourages people to spend more time on their platform, then you're going to get rewarded for that. And that reward comes in the form of reach. So just by filming a live video or an Instagram reel, you're going to reach 3 times more people than you would if you posted an image. So reels are very simple to do. You just hit the plus sign on your Instagram, scroll at the bottom. You can choose an image, a reel, or a video. They can be 30 seconds long, and you can just have some really good fun with it. So I would definitely encourage you to play around with video, reels, and stories. Carousels, if you want to use images, you can upload multiple images to one post, and that creates a storyboard. You can the user scrolls through the different images, and that's what we call a carousel, and you'll get more reach with that because people are spending more time scrolling through. So it's kind of like, if you think of it in those terms, how can I encourage my followers to spend more on the platform? In terms of the actual content itself, I split it into 3 different categories. So educational, inspirational, entertaining. We're all different. We all prefer different types of information. So a little bit of each would keep everybody happy. So, a little bit of product information, service information, inspirational information. So recipe ideas are very good for that. Entertaining, any sort of funny things that happen to you in the week, and try and make it personal as well. So another reason that we step away a lot from social is because we find you get more engagement when you're talking from the heart, when you talk about the things that have gone on behind the scenes in your business, because that's the juicy stuff that people love to engage with. Posting a product out every other day on social can be a little bit tedious and boring for your followers. Think about the stuff that they're interested in. Everybody loves a good old soap opera. I'm not saying turn your business into a soap, but share some of the stuff that goes on behind the scenes, and people love that. And ask questions as well, so that people engage with you. So I mentioned it before, 20 to 30% should be promotional. User-generated content. So this is when somebody will tag your account. So they might have received a product. So this is a really great thing to do. Package your products up so beautifully that when they're received, people just can't help taking a photograph of them and sharing them on their social. And in the little package, if you can say, tag us with your experience at, and then your Instagram handle or your Facebook handle, that helps them share as well. So any sort of user-generated content means that you can then repost it to your feed as well. So you can just grab the image and repost it. You can use it in your ads as well. Generated content is brilliant because people can film a little video testimonial of the experience they've had with your product. And again, we can use that in ads too. So I know there's a lot of stuff here. I'm not saying do all of this stuff, but just throwing some ideas out to you. And these are the things that are going to shift the dial as well. They're going to shift the needle. So anyone can post images, but I'm giving you some sort of top tips of, try these little things. Use hashtags and location tags, so they help you reach new people. It goes without saying, I think most of you on Instagram, if you're not using hashtags, you need to be using hashtags. So these are little tags that are relevant to your product or service. So if you're selling, use honey, if you're selling raw honey, I know we've got a raw honey producer on here, you want to be using tags that people might be searching on. So it could be natural food, hashtag natural food. You probably use hashtag raw honey is an obvious one. Create a branded hashtag for your own as well. So when you go into Instagram or even Facebook and you go into the search bar, it's called the explore bar on Instagram, and you type in hashtag natural food, that will bring up a list of all the content that's using that hashtag. And believe it, people do search on hashtags. Location tags are really important as well. So at Lincoln, use that hashtag, that location tag, because again, when people come into the area, they do search on those location tags to see what's going on. So hashtags and location tags really important. We talked about the schedule at least 3 times a week, and use it for ask for customer reviews. So I mentioned that when you're packaging your product, whether they're buying it in store or you're sending it out to them, ask for those reviews and for people to post those and tag you on social. So just a couple of things some tips here to help you build your audience on Instagram and Facebook. On Instagram, you can grow without investing in ads, but it will still take time. So focus on IGTV, Reels and Stories, anything that's going to keep the user on the platform for longer. You'll get rewarded by reaching more people. Collaborations and giveaways, so team up with a brand that's aligned to yours, and particularly choose one that's got a larger audience than you, and create a giveaway bundle. You post it out on social media and ask people to tag and share a friend, and that will help, and follow you, and that will help you grow your followers that way. Really cheap and easy to do, very still very popular. Improving your engagement score. Okay, so this is really important. If there's one thing that you do this. So when you're sat at home watching or not watching the football tonight, get out your phone, go into the hashtag feed. So go into the search bar, take a hashtag that's relevant to your industry. So I'm going to use the honey example again, it's easy. So hashtag natural food, go in there, see who is commenting, who's posting on that hashtag, and jump into their post and comment. Have conversations with people. What this is going to do is going to tell Instagram that you're an active user. When that happens and you do this over and over and over again, Instagram will share your content with potential new followers. So your content gets shared across the platform, and then you'll pick up new followers as a consequence. Really, really important thing to do. You'll get a quality score, an engagement score from Instagram based on how much time you're spending chatting with other users. Okay, so and do anything else, videos and engaging with other users on the platform is really, really important. Other ways that you can engage with people as well as commenting on their posts is through direct messages, sharing their posts, asking people to share your content, asking people to save your content. So if you're posting a recipe, why not save this or bookmark it is a really great thing to do, because if people bookmark your content, again, that's a positive for your account. And then polls in stories. So in Instagram stories, you can ask questions, and again, that's another form of engagement. Talked about hashtags and location tags. And influence marketing is something that used to be big quite a while back. It's still really big, actually. If there are any influencers that you can team up with. So I was talking about the camera stand. Did you get that bit?
I didn't.
No, oh, right, okay. So I was talking about running Facebook Lives. So Facebook Lives are a really great way for reaching new followers organically. You can buy one of these stands and set your phone up. I don't know if you can see that. Set your phone up with one of these. They're adjustable. They're really cool. It's 20 quid. And you can set it up and do some product demos, or even if you run a hotel, make a tour of your rooms. There is a company called Sally's Cottages up in the north of England. I think it's around the Lake District. She's built her business by using Facebook Lives to take people on a tour around the cottages that they rent out, their holiday cottages. Really simple thing to do. Native video is when you pre-record something and upload it into Facebook. You can do that as well. And then paid ads. So paid ads are great because they allow you to target specific target specific audiences based on their interests. So if you have a gluten-free product, you can display your ads in front of a gluten-free audience. And we're getting sort of 3, 4, 5, 6 times returns from ads because we're able to display our products in front of the right people at the right time. Okay, right, I'm just conscious of time. So Instagram, it's all about building the relationship and being in and starting that conversation, really important. You're measured by your engagement score. Dive into the hashtag feeds tonight and start that conversation. Use polls, reels, stories and IGTV. Encourage user-generated content and be active. And that will help you grow an engaged following. On the right-hand side is an example of the hashtag feed. So you type in hashtag and then the search item. Yeah, and if you can, make the time, okay? It's so important. I just want to talk about investing in paid ads because it will help you reach millions and millions of people, and that is the way that you're going to scale your business. It helps you get in front of the right audience, as I've just explained. Will help you 10x your sales. So a lot of the companies that I work with have been startups. They may have been turning over a couple of thousand a month. They're now turning over a healthy 6-figure business within a year just through using Facebook ads. So it's the way to stay ahead of your competition. Also have a look at Google ads, and YouTube ads are really interesting now. We're doing some work there, particularly with food brands. So you can have a nice little product demo video pop up when Joe Wicks is playing. Now imagine having your brand pop up in the middle of one of his videos. And we're seeing about a 2 and 3 times return on investment there as well. How much do you need to spend a month? It's not cheap, but is advertising cheap? It's a lot cheap. It's probably one of the cheapest forms of advertising. We recommend £1,000 per month in terms of ad spend. You can start off with less, but 1,000 will help you reach the right number of customers you need to get that return back. Okay, so finally, what do you need to stop and start doing? First of all, please don't stress about it. Reach out to me if you want to. If you need any further advice, I'm here to help. Do make it an important function of your business. It's so important. Like I said at the start, you wouldn't manage your own accounts at the end of the year. Make it. Marketing is so integral in terms of growing your business. If you can, hire a freelancer to take over your social media day-to-day activity. You can pay, I think freelancers start around 500, 550 a month. Hire an agency to manage your ads, exactly what we do. Take an advertising course. So I do run a Facebook ads course for e-commerce owners, if only to understand it. So if you do eventually go out into the world of the agencies, you're not going to get fobbed off with a load of jargon. At least you know the questions to ask. Hire an intern, put them on a course, and they can run the ads for you or run the social media for you. I put in here, review your range. This is quite important if you want to run ads, because you need to get a good return on your investment. And in order to do that, you need to have a good average order value. So I had somebody reach out to me last week, and she sells a hand cream. She retails it for like £6, and it's that one product on her website. And I said, you're not going to build a business, or you're not going to be able to successfully build a positive return on your investment with a £6 product. It needs to be around £25 for the average order value needs to be around £25 in order for you to be able to get a decent return. And like I said before, remember, email marketing is not dead. It's so important to have that in place. Build your list, email your list or your subscribers every week, and keep them informed about what's going on in your company. It's not just about sales. In fact, 50% of the emails that we send out are what we call transactional. The other 50% are brand building. So that's telling them about the business and what we're up to. So just to finish on, so you can contact me either at the Social Media Circle. That's where I run my Facebook ads mastery, and if anybody's interested in joining that, I have a special exclusive discount for you. I think it's £649 for life. You get full access to my Facebook ads course, plus ongoing day-to-day interaction with me. There's a £100 discount for you, which ends on the 14th of July. If you want to have a think about that, or you want to bring somebody in your team on board to go on that course, or you can reach out to me at info@sallysocial.com, or on LinkedIn, of course. The details are in the pack.
Oh, that's fab. Thanks ever so much, Jay. There are lots of questions, but I'm just conscious of time. So I thought it might be, while Adrian's talking, you might get time to a little digest, because there seems to be quite a lot directed at sort of what you've been talking about. Okay. So if I bring Adrian on, and we'll do the questions at the end, if that's all right.
Cool.
No further ado, if I ask Adrian to unmute himself and take to the virtual stage. Welcome, Adrian.
Yes. Hey, how you doing? Everyone's well? Hope everyone is good. Sorry, I was running a bit late. It's just that we just got into sales, so it's gone a bit crazy. So I'm going to try and navigate my way through this technology, and I believe if I hit this share screen button, that should help me. Okay. Can anyone see my screen?
Yep, all good.
Excellent. Okay. So first of all, thanks for inviting me. Thanks for having me. I'm not going to take up too much of your time. I'll walk through just a few sort of key points that I usually sort of have discussions with sort of startups or food brands within the game. Just a quick introduction for those who don't know who I am. Adrian Boswell. I've been with Selfridges for 20 years. That's where you all say you don't look old enough. Thank you. Started on the shop floor. I'm a fishmonger by trade, and just sort of worked my way up. Always on the fresh food side. The only fresh food category I haven't looked after as a buyer is bakery. So everything else from cheese to deli to butchers, fruit and veg, and. So obviously, I'm just going to take you through a few key points, and hopefully, share some of my experience with you that might help you on your journeys, whatever stage you guys are at. So the main question I usually get is, what do buyers want? And that is a very loaded question. I think if you ask most buyers, they'll say, I want everything. I want the best prices. I want exclusivity. I want you to give me marketing budget. I want everything that you've got to give. And we know that actually you don't really have everything. So, but we want as much as we can get, and we want to be made to look good. I want to find that great product that's going to make me look good when I present it to my board of directors and my head of food. But, the reason why I kind of like to highlight and start at this point is because this is completely the wrong question. And it's not about what we want. It's about what you want. What do you want? Have you stopped to ask yourself what it is you want? And I've broken it down into sort of the main three sectors, which I think pretty much will cover most food brands. So, you've got my end of the scale, which is working with Selfridges, which is a premium retailer, but a lot of people need to understand it is low volume, potentially high price point because it's low volume. So, we're not ordering volume, so the price won't ever be able to meet those of the supermarkets. This is why wherever you've got the crossover between a premium end retailer and a convenience store or a supermarket, because they've got hundreds of stores nationwide, they can drive the price down, which drives their retail down and their margin requirements are very different to us. But what we offer, what they don't, which you can't have from the likes of some of the supermarkets, is that prestige, that premium store. We are almost like a seal of approval. And we pride ourselves on being a launch pad for a lot of brands that have come to the market. So, for instance, when Vita Coco first came to the UK, they launched with us. When Jimmy's Iced Coffee first got into the game, we launched with us. Brands like Sabzi. I realized that I'm going through a lot of drinks here. But those are the brands that come to mind off the top of my head. But we are a launch pad. Once you're sort of in Selfridges, everybody starts to have a look because they know what it takes from a quality and a branding perspective to get inside the likes of us? Or do you want the convenience? You might want that, which is absolutely fine. You know, high volume, lower price point, lots of other challenges that come with that. And I'm sure Karen would have touched upon a lot of those. And then I always throw this one into the mix because there are a lot of brands who, and rightfully so, are passionate about their product and passionate about the brand that they've been taking a long time to build. But actually, if you are trying to get some volume into the game, have you ever looked at food service? Now, I say that at a time where actually food service is a bit challenging for obvious reasons. But there is a whole other revenue stream if your product fits that model, whether it be pubs, whether it be hotels, whether it will be, you know, supplying restaurants at bulk. There is, you know, there's a lot of numbers and a lot of volume to be drove through those channels. So I always like to start that point in saying, well, actually, you know, maybe you should stop, slow down. If you haven't, maybe, you know, most of you or all of you have done this. And you know, I don't really want to be wasting your time telling you things that you might have already done, already know. But I do think that is a very important piece for you guys to start with. That what do you want? What is your end game? What's your vision? And then that will help you to navigate your way through the system. It's almost like just creating a little roadmap, because 9 times out of 10, and I get this a lot, brands come to me and say, just launched in Sainsbury's, would you look at it? And I said, well, why would I do that? I mean, there's no kudos in it for me. That's not what Selfridges is about. So there's also that piece around understanding where you want to go, but understanding the brands in the market that you want to go into. So that takes us into, so, okay, well, and what do Selfridges want? And obviously we're going to explore this question because I'm a Selfridges buyer, and this is the right time for me to pop in my disclaimer. If there's anything that you hear here is all my personal experience that I've built up. None of this guarantees you're listing anywhere, but it should help you, I hope, and that's the aim of it. So I have to start with our commitment to sustainability, which is Project Earth. So I'm not sure how many of you would know, and actually, you know, Selfridges is a great company to work for. We are trendsetters, and we have led the way with this almost 10 years ago. We started on our sustainability journey with Project Ocean. And what we did with Project Ocean at that time was, you know, we removed, and it was very controversial across the business, but we removed all single-use plastic. So that means we stopped selling water bottles in plastic, carbonated drinks in plastic bottles. You know, we started that 10 years ago. So then the natural progression of everything that's happened, you know, throughout the, you know, with COVID, the pandemic, and, you know, just to focus on sustainability is, you know, Project Earth is the natural progression onto that. And our strapline is, you know, let's change the way we shop. We want to reinvent retail. We want to do it in a sustainable way. So I'll just read you a quick quote from our MD at the time. So we want to reinvent retail, and our sustainability commitments underpin our ambitions to not only change the way that we, I can't actually see that side of the screen, but how we do business too. Project Earth marks a new chapter in Selfridges history, the start of a challenge yet a central journey to completely change the way we shop and put sustainability at the heart of everything that we do. And that is our key driver, from food to fashion to beauty. It's going to be throughout the Selfridges DNA from this day and for the foreseeable future. We have some tangible targets that we have to meet by 2025. So from a food perspective, what does that look like? Organic is something we're going to go after in a much bigger way. Reducing waste is something that we're going to go after. All of these tags, and these are little icons that we will attach to all of the products that you'll start to see if you come in store or if you happen to shop it online. British makers, which, you know, is a key one for everybody here. With everything that's happening with Brexit, there's going to be a lot more challenges coming in October when the new legislation comes in again in terms of how we can get products from the EU delivered. So, you know, British made produce is going to be a massive focus, I think, not just for us, but I think for a lot of different retailers and, you know, just anybody who's buying food. Supporting communities, so whether that's, you know, whether you're giving back or whether you're, you know, aligned with a specific charity, forest friendly, and obviously vegan or plant-based, depending on which side of the coin you prefer. So that's really sort of like a top line structure of exactly where Selfridges is going. That's our overriding strategy, and everything we do, any products, you know, needs to be talking to sustainability in some shape or form, and ideally we look for them to sort of talk to one of these 6 icons that you see in front of you. So in terms of what we look for when we're buying, you know, the key things, and this is almost how the process would go if you was having a meeting with a Selfridges buyer, but, you know, it can be flexible and change. Story. So, you know, our flagship store in Oxford Street, you know, it's all about experience. It's all about theatre. We like to call our team members on the shop floor storytellers, because that's what it's about. Every product, every brand has a story to tell. What is your story? Think about how you're going to train. You know, if you do get a listing, you know, what does that staff member say to the end customer? Can he bring your product to life? Can he bring your brand to life? Can he engage with that customer? That's very important. Quality, you know, the next step is you've got us intrigued with the story. Looks like it sounds great. So now we want to test the product. We want to make sure that the quality is on par with everything that we expect. And we set the bar very high. A lot of people seem to think working in a brand like Selfridges, we're sitting back eating loads of caviar and high-end smoked salmon all day. Not every product that comes through our door is that great. So the quality does get tested. And then the most important part for me, more than anything, is the technical aspect to it. And I see a lot of brands, and again, I'm not familiar with where some of you guys are in your journey. You know, maybe you guys have already sort of been on this journey and you understand all of that. But for a lot of the startups, this is where a lot of the challenges are, the technical aspect. Now, obviously, we know if you want to go and play with the convenience world, BRC is a must. If you want to go in the multinationals, Salsa is probably the next best thing. And from the Selfridges perspective, it's not, if you don't have one of these technical aspects, it's not a showstopper. It just makes it a lot easier. You know, there are ways around doing these things, but the technical aspect is very important, because we obviously, as any other food retailer would know, until our technical team are happy, we cannot sell a product. So it doesn't matter how great your story is, how good the quality is. If you haven't got your HACCPs and your due diligence, and you haven't had it micro tested, and you haven't had it shelf life tested, then we're just not going to be able to sell it. So those would be the first three things in terms of how we look at it. And then just a few sort of other things that we add in there to innovation. You know, are you already thinking about what comes next? It's great that you've got this product that's sitting right in front of me, but you know, what's happening in 6 months' time? What's happening at Christmas? What's happening at Valentine's Day? What's happening at Easter? Are you doing seasonal changing and tweaks? There's a strap line in Selfridges is, okay, well, as soon as it's launched, it's old. That's it. So even when it launches on day one, it's old. That's the mentality behind Selfridges. What's coming next? Exclusive is a tricky one, because now you can just carve exclusive up how you want it. Is it online exclusive? Is it in-store exclusive? Is it department store exclusive? And. So it is one that we do like to have, obviously. My personal preference is first to market. That's nicer, because we're not tying you in. We're not holding you back and saying you can't sell to no one else. We're just saying, look, we're in the game first. And everybody knows we was in the game first, and then everybody else has it, so they were late to the party. So again, a bit like the kudos. USP, very similar to your story. What does that look like? What is so special about your brand? What makes you different? I heard Jay keep referring to a raw honey brand, so I'll just pick up on honey. Okay, what's so different about your raw honey brand? You know, are the bees getting their pollen from a specific type of flower that nobody else does? That's rare to Lincolnshire. I don't know. I'm making that freestyling. I just might be talking a lot of nonsense there. But, you know, is there a USP that you can feed into that story that's going to make us say, well, actually, we need to be part of this? And that's sort of like the top line, what we call, you know, sort of like commercials. Now, logistics is another challenging one that a lot of sort of startup brands don't really understand a lot of the time when I'm speaking. And again, this is particularly to startups, so forgive me if I've got this wrong and you guys are already in the game. But understanding the cost of getting deliveries into your retailer. Have you even figured what that route to market is? If it's a chilled product, have you got a chilled courier? You know, where are you? I'm trying to understand. You need to understand how and where you need to deliver as well. So again, if you are delivering to the supermarkets, they've got DCs and various outlets. What does that look like? You know, do you have to get a timed booking in slot? Because I know from a logistic perspective, you'll probably get charged more for a time delivery than if it's an all-day delivery. You need to understand how and where you need to deliver, and then understand those costs, because 9 times out of 10, my understanding is, you know, a lot of retailers are not paying for delivery charge. Everything should really be built into that product cost. So if you're going to tell me your cost is £1, and then I say, cool, it's £1, and then you come back to me and say, well, actually, plus delivery, no, that's just not going to work, not going to fly at all. So let's figure that out. Competitiveness. Now, a lot of people ask me, they say, why did you put that in the mix? And I say, look, I love the food industry because we all here because we're passionate about food in some shape or form, and that's great. But that sometimes we can lose sight of the fact that, you know, the moment you want to start getting into retailers, it becomes a competition. That's just the long and short of it. You're going to come to me and ask me to stock your, sorry to keep picking on you raw honey guys, but you're going to come to me and ask me to stock your raw honey. And, you know, chances are what you're really asking me to do is to replace one of my honey brands with you. That's competition. So are you telling me now you're going to sell more than this honey brand? Well, how do you know that? Because you don't even know how much I'm selling of this honey brand. But I kid you not, it is a competition to command the shelf space from another brand. A lot of us retailers, you know, it's not like we're just blessed with loads of space popping up to say, look, I just need some new brands to fill this space. You know, we are filling spaces, and 9 times out of 10, what you see on the shelf is there because it's selling. So why should we take something out to bring you in? And again, this is just to get you thinking on, and it'll be the same for most retailers unless they're specifically looking for newness within that particular category, which, you know, it happens, but that's more of a seasonal or campaign thing, whether it's Christmas, Easter, which we've touched upon. And then obviously, I mean, I can't leave without talking about margin and prices. You know, I put it at the end because for me, I'm in a fortunate enough position where actually our customers are not as price sensitive as some of the other retailers, depending on what the product and what the category is. But, you know, there's no way around it. That's always going to be important. And, you know, margin and pricing, just prepare yourself for that conversation, I think. I think your first price is not going to be the end price, which is agreed. I've never done a deal where I've taken that exact price, the first price it came with. And I don't think I will ever do it if I value my job and keeping my role. Margins, you know, are very important to retailers for obvious reasons, as they should be. And as they would be for all of you guys and your brands as well. And before I just sort of leave you, so it's very short and sweet, and you know, I'd like to sort of leave it open to you guys if you have any specific questions for me, and hopefully I can answer them for you. But I cannot stress enough the importance of the people behind the brand. I've seen it many a times where everything looks so good, but just because the person was, you know, quite inflexible and not willing to try and find solutions to some of the challenges, that deals have just broken down, just simply because of, you know, a characteristic, a personality trait. You know, I do urge you to remember that actually, you know, it is business, and we all want to be, you know, nice people and get along, but there is going to have to be a great degree of flexibility and understanding, not just on your side, on our side as well. But I've never really, the greatest deals I've seen done are where the relationships are very strong as well. So I would just sort of leave you with that nugget. And that was me, sort of a whistle-stop tour. Any questions that anybody would like to throw my way?
Thanks, Adrian. That was really very interesting. We've had one from Philip, and it's how important do you think awards like to customers, knowing that you've been a judge on the Taste Awards as well?
I think Great Taste is a great platform for me from a judging perspective. It's I've done a lot of judging, a lot of competition. It's the most thorough that I've been to in regards to the amount of palettes that your product passes through before obtaining a star. Mm-hmm. So that's why we still work with those guys quite a lot and stay close, because we know, and the people who are judging, actually, these are serious players in the game, people that have been in the game far longer than me, people that have a lot more knowledge than me in flavor and profiles as well. So I think Great Taste is a good one. How important is it in terms of getting listings and, to the end retailer is questionable. Way back when we would highlight the Great Taste in store and have a selection of all the Great Taste winners. But it's not as unique as it used to be, because they've grown, and you can see Great Taste products everywhere. And that, that's the right thing for them to do. But from a Selfridges perspective, I mean, it's nice for us to see that it's got a Great Taste award. So yeah, we'll always look at products that have a Great Taste award, because we do know it's of good quality.
No, really interesting. And in terms of that onboarding process, to say you are selected, what does that look like? You know, Karen mentioned, you know, you do your pitch and then you know, there's a recall, maybe having another call. How does it work from a Selfridges perspective? What's your process?
Yeah, pretty similar. I mean, there's no hard fast rule of it, but I mean, if I had to give you a sort of standard model, it does look like, you know, you have the contact, we read, review, whether you sent a presentation deck or you sent an email, we review it and say, oh, actually that sounds all right, or it looks all right from the images. Okay, send us some samples. We'll see the samples, we'll taste the product, we'll look at the branding. If we're then happy, we'll look at your prices. So send us through some further details. You'll have a look. Okay, we've got that on hand. And if we're serious about it, we'll put you straight in contact with our technical team to get, you know, to make sure that actually I don't want to waste any more time getting all of this detail and going down the line for technical to say actually they haven't done this, or their labeling doesn't meet the regulations, or whatever that might look like. And once technical involved, that's when we kind of get in. Once technical have sort of approved and said they're comfortable with it, then we do the commercial dance, and then, you know, once that's sort of agreed, then we get everything set up on the system, and then sort of figured out a launch date. And depending on, you know, how big the range is or how important it is or the time of year, it can take anything between, I've seen brands or products being launched after 4 weeks. I've seen brands being launched after 6 months. It just, you know, just comes down to the timing and that particular buyer and that particular category and yeah.
Really interesting. Conscious of time, I've just got one more question to Jodie, then I need to go back to Jay's questions. She asked, Adrian, on your first impressions of a product, what makes it stand out to you personally? I mean, she's mentioned obviously the points that you mentioned about sort of what Selfridges looks for, but, you know, is it packaging?
Everybody's different. Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing that I'd probably say to all of you is, remember that, you know, buyers are still people. So ultimately what you're dealing with is characters and personalities who look at different things in different ways. And me, a lot of the time, I mean, I'd like to think I'm quite approachable and I try and speak to as many people as possible and look at as many things as possible. For me, like I said at the end there, it's about, for me, it's the people, it's the approach. It's, you know, it's how you come at me, and then, you know, then I'm happy to take a look. And I look for everything initially. That's why I usually ask for a presentation pack, because I want to know about the people behind it. I want to know the story. I want to know the product. I want to know everything. I want to know as much as I can at the get-go before, you know, worrying it. So, but yeah, I know buyers who are currently only buying, you know, to Jay's point, there's a lot of buyers who are just buying based on what they see on social media. How big is your following? The imagery look good? All of that sort of stuff. I wish there's no magic wand, you know. But for me personally, I like to definitely start with the people and everything putting together.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you ever so much, Adrian, for that insight. It was really useful. Very conscious that we've got sort of a couple of minutes left. Just want to go back to some of the questions that were asked Jay. I know that she's been looking at them sort of while Adrian's been talking. One of the questions I think we've already mentioned in terms of, you answered actually, Jay, was that sort of, is that it was talking about actually posting 3 times a week per platform or in total, was one of the questions that was asked.
Yeah, so 3 times a week per platform, but with Facebook and Instagram, you can get away with cross-posting. So you can use a scheduler, such as Later for Instagram is pretty cool, and you can cross-post from there. I think cross-post from there, yeah, you can set it up. But within Facebook itself, they've got a platform now called Creator Studio, where you can actually attach your Instagram account to your Facebook account, and you can cross-post that way, so you can schedule them beforehand. But the key thing is, don't try and spread yourself thinly across too many platforms. And I saw somebody say that they're on, you know, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and it's just too much. It is too much. Go with 2. I would say, you know, go with the biggest ones of Facebook and Instagram to start off with. Twitter's great for like customer service, so we tend to use that for that reason.
And there was one question about influencer marketing. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah,
so we're gifted. I know it's been in the press.
Yeah,
a bit negative, isn't it?
Massive. In fact, one of our friends' daughters, she's an influencer. My God, I'm in the wrong business. She meets thousands, and kitted the whole home out. But I guess I'm not an expert on influencer marketing. We tend to only use it for for the food producers to create recipe content for Instagram. So there are a lot of like cooks and semi-pro sort of chefs out there and influencers who are more than happy to create recipes for your product in return for gifted product. And for us, in terms of getting around that content creation challenge, it's brilliant for that. So we'll pick out half a dozen, 10 influencers within our niche that will help us create the recipes, and they're happy to do it. Just send them and give them product.
Yeah, brilliant. Very conscious that we're at 3:30, so I'd just like to say a sort of very big thank you to all our speakers for joining us today. It's been a fantastic afternoon, and I'm sure the start of many a conversation too. Thank you to our audience also, and please do get in touch with me, because I'm really keen to find out the topics that you would like us to cover in forthcoming events. Our next event is on the 1st of September, where we're focusing on crisis communications from a PR perspective and also a legal one too. So just like to say take care, goodbye, and thank you very much for joining us. And I should say come on England as well.
Thank you.
Thank you ever so much.
Good week, everyone.
Yeah, take care. Bye bye.